And we're here. We're here. What's up? It is Thursday, 8 o'clock Central Time. That is 6 o'clock over in the Mountain Time Zone. Are you Mountain? What are you? Pacific?
Me? I'm West Pacific.
You're Pacific.
I'm Eastern, so we're all over the country.
We're all over. We got a little bit of everything. So it's Thursday, 8 o'clock Central Time. So it must be time for Comic Wrap. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, excited. All right, I'm Shelby, your friendly neighborhood comic book collector. You got, of course, my buddy Gorilla Todd. Tonight, we've got a special guest, Anthony, the Comic Reaper, Game Reaper. I'm not sure how you want to be introduced, but
on YouTube, I'm just known as Reaper Tate.
Reaper Tate. Okay, cool. Well, welcome, my friend.
Thank you.
So, let's see. We got Las Cruces, of course, in the audience. We'll have, I'm sure, a few more. I'm not sure if there's anything else going on tonight or not, but yeah, here we are. All right. I'm gonna pull up some of the news and stuff got going on, but how do you two know each other? So yeah, go ahead, Todd. Why don't you take over?
I know I remember watching Reaper Tate's videos very early on when I started watching YouTube, and we communicated a couple times, and I can't remember precisely, but I know we've crossed paths here and there. And I recently picked up some books from Reaper Tate, and I was like, hey, why don't you jump on the show with us? If I think I asked him if he was still doing YouTube because I wasn't even sure.
Yeah. First off, I appreciate the invite. Thank you very much.
No, my pleasure.
Yeah, I remember years ago we crossed paths. It probably was, I watched some of your content. You watched a little bit of mine, a comment here and there. I think there was one time there was a book you were selling a few years back that I was interested in. I wish I could remember what it was. I don't remember. But the point is we've crossed paths a couple of times throughout the years.
Sure, definitely.
And, again, I appreciate you inviting me on the stream. It's nice. It's nice to meet Shelby and nice to be a part of it here.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime there's an opportunity to, expand the community and connect some people who, fellow collectors who haven't met or just expand their bandwidth it's why not?
Yeah. It's really nice though. Thanks.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I do recognize the name now that you said Reaper Tate, and I was looking. Have you dropped any videos lately? Because I do recognize the name now. So I apologize.
What was mentioned before, I used to put out a video every week. Over the last couple of years, it hasn't been so easy because I've been just so busy, with what it is I do for a living. And I put out a video maybe a week ago about a recent haul. I'm probably going to put out a couple more videos over the next weeks, but it's been much lighter than it's been years previously.
All right. Well, if you want to drop your YouTube address and stuff, we'll drop in the chats. People can sub you up and everything. And so very cool. Looks like you're also a fellow gamer. We was talking about that right before. You see a lot of PlayStation. Also see some Thundercats going on. So
I used to have a lot of the original Thundercats as a kid, and I sold them off about 10 years ago. And when I noticed that these were coming out, I'm looking at them and I said to myself, oh, geez, these were the Thundercat molds that I wanted back in 1986. And I just started, where Mum-Ra looks like Mum-Ra. And so that's just started buying them and got back into it. So I think they're really cool. They're really cool.
They are cool. And I do love the way, and I guess it's been, really thanks to McFarlane Toys, really stepping up the game with like the higher quality of
level of detail,
things like that.
Absolutely.
Level of detail and the
level of detail.
Yeah. And even the packaging back in the day,
so much further than just a blister card.
Exactly. McFarlane should get, he's done so much good in the comic in the comic world. He's also done a lot in the action figure world, and it's felt even today with Super 7 releases and so many other different companies that put out stuff that really are stepping up their game because of something that he started.
Yeah,
I think he clearly raised the bar.
Oh, absolutely.
It created that whole new level to aspire to for up and coming toy makers.
Absolutely.
Designers, everything. It's just.
And I really like Super 7. I mean, I think that they're one of the. I know there's several great companies out there, more than I can name.
Mm-hmm.
But Super 7, I've noticed they've been doing a wonderful job with not just the Thundercats, but if you liked Silverhawks, like I did, series that came out around the time of Thundercats. If you liked Turtles, the Playmates Turtles are still good, but Super 7, they put out their own reissues of them and different things that just wonderful, and so many other series that's coming that have been reissued or reimagined really well. Love it.
That's cool. Yeah, I do. I look at a lot of the. I noticed the Super 7 stuff. I see a lot of the action figures that are coming out. They're just so intricate and so detailed.
Yeah, it's
pretty amazing. I can't imagine what I would have had I had the opportunity to play with a toy like that when I was a kid.
Oh man! Like I was saying before about that Mum-Ra, when I was collecting the Thundercat, that was. I can remember when I got Mum-Ra back in 1986. That was the first Thundercat I bought. But I remember when I got him, he was cool and all that. But then I'm looking at the cartoon, like, he doesn't really look like the cartoon character. And when you see this one, it's like, geez, they got the coloring and the facial structure and the.
He's a pretty dark, menacing character in the cartoon.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, they made him kind of goofy at points, but that introduction, that's pretty intense. Yeah.
It's a classic introduction to a character. Every time he transforms, it's definitely something that a lot of us remember, and I think a lot of even new generation that are getting into Thundercats really appreciate them.
Yeah, I definitely see. I see. I'm a teacher. I see kids at school wearing a Thundercat T-shirt every once in a while, and it makes me chuckle because. Where'd you get that? How did that? Is it random, or what? Did you just look at the Thundercat design and think, "Wow, that's a cool design"?
That's a good point you brought up, because really that design for back then, mid '80s, that for a cartoon series like that really did stand out.
No, it became iconic. I mean, it's striking.
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes when. People today, they want to revamp something that came out back then. They change it up a little bit, but that original design of the Thundercat logo, I mean, that's the way it's spelled out, and the I guess the cat symbol. It's still all really good. It doesn't necessarily have to be changed. As a matter of fact, I think when they tried to redo Thundercats a couple years ago, the cartoon, when they tried to change it up a little bit, well, in my view, it wasn't necessarily for the.
You don't have to fix what isn't broke. Yeah. I always thought, I remember watching the first episode of Thundercats, and then I remember watching that cartoon, and then when they were in the spaceship, and they land on the planet, and the old wizard shepherd guy kind of dies, and then I remember seeing this proliferation of almost like some sort of team of characters. Like I remember Thundercats being first, then Silverhawks.
Yep.
Then there were the insect people, who I think are getting a relaunch now.
Oh.
The Sectars.
Yeah.
Some people, I think, they call it Sectaris. I don't know, but they're basically insect people.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there had to be a couple others. There was some space cowboys and. I can't remember all the cartoons. The cowboy one might have been Brave Star.
Maybe. There's so many. It's like I was into Thundercats, Silverhawks, and then I kind of went to the real Ghostbusters and Turtles, and then X-Men, and then Spider-Man, and then I started to wander off. But I remember some of those things in the middle, like some of the things you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I really liked about Thundercats, even back then, it had like a Star Wars feel in a way. You know, like you mentioned Jaga, he was almost like Obi-Wan Kenobi. And
Yeah, definitely.
the
He
thing,
was like the old wizard, the wise old wizard.
yes, he showed up as though he was a ghost throughout the whole series, except for that first episode when he died on the way.
Yeah, that's
New Third Earth or whatever it was.
New Thunder or whatever they called it.
Yes. And, you know, you had the ancient spirits of evil, almost like you had Mumra as a Sith Lord. You know, it did have some, I think it had some influences from Star Wars. Now, of course, there's a lot of differences too. But I think it really had, I think that was one of the things that was so appealing about it, you know, for at least for me.
Yeah. And I think it also did a good job of like taking some cues from Star Wars, but not doing anything like too obvious. Like a lot of cartoons just added in a little, like a half-sized robot to like mimic R2D2.
Yeah.
There's like too many to mention.
Yeah.
But like, so like, there just wasn't as obvious. You know, it was a more subtle approach, I think.
Yeah.
Like,
you're right. You're absolutely.
It was good how they had like Wily Kit and Wily Cat to like balance the like Panthro, the old grumpy guy, and kind of play off each other. Yeah. It's a good group of like personalities and characters, I think.
And I think they're coming out with a live action movie. Or at least they're going to start making it, I think, next year. That's what I heard.
What's up, Ben Compton? Just saying hello to Ben in the chat. But yeah, I was just going to say, I think I just saw a Thundercats trailer, but a fan trailer, but it wasn't. It was, do you remember Thundar the Barbarian?
I do.
Yeah, it was like a live action Thundar. They like redid the opening of Thundar, but live action.
That was Hanna-Barbera, right?
Probably.
I don't know. I know Jack Kirby did the original illustrations for the creation of Thundar. You know, it had a very Jack Kirby look.
I know that.
I'm trying to think who else it could have been if it wasn't Hanna-Barbera, and I can't think of who else it might have been. So it must have been Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah, I know.
So, all right. So I am. Y'all can see I'm moving around a lot. There's Tony and Y. Hey Ben. So last week, last 2 weeks, Todd and I was engaged. We didn't get out of the house. I didn't anyway. I had a hurricane this week I was hiding from. But Todd and I did the old school auctions the past 2 Fridays in a row. So I am just now getting around to packaging everybody's stuff up after the hurricane and 2 days without power and, you know, all those sad stories that I'm sure no one cares to hear about my problems.
I've been through many a hurricane. Treacherous weather.
It was bad. I was telling Todd, right before the show, you know, is you know, we got the dirty side of it and it was real slow moving. So, you know, I could understand like people, you know, being, like shell shocked and stuff, right? Because you're sitting there in your house, it's 4 a.m., your electricity is off. The only illumination you have is a flashlight or candles, and you hear just the most ferocious howling wind right outside for hours. You know, it doesn't stop. You hear cracking, you hear things falling, almost like bombs, possibly going off, right? Like the person in the foxhole. And I'll admit it, man, I'm 55 years old, dude. And sometimes I just sat there, I just cried. It's like, God, please, get me through this, get the power back on. Don't hear any crashes in the back of the house. and stuff. So yeah, it's really really difficult. I did drop a few shorts during the time I had some network connection to kind of give people some of the feeling of what was going on. So, but anyway,
Harrowing.
It is, man. I'm not sure if I like being caught in snowstorms or hurricanes because I lived in Wichita, Kansas for a while going to school, and there was some vicious snowstorms up there.
Well, the only thing I could compare it to, and it's probably
yeah, I know you said you're on the East Coast, so where?
I'm in New Jersey.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
And the only thing I could compare it to, it's probably a poor comparison, was Hurricane Sandy about 12 years ago when that was the first hurricane I can remember in my lifetime where we lost power for days on end.
I've never seen New York being flooded like that and stuff. It was crazy.
I remember when I was a kid and I still lived in New York. I lived in Long Beach, New York. And a hurricane came through. I don't remember what the name of it was, but I could remember because Long Beach is a little barrier island on the southern side of Long Island.
Yeah.
So I think we went to one of my cousins or something that lived more inland and stayed there. But when we went home, we went and looked, and I had an aunt who stayed in one of the retirement establishments. And then like you could see the ocean had gone all the way up the stairs. Like from their stairs, you could see the beach, and the ocean was off in the distance. But the ocean found its way all the way to those steps, and like cleaned out buildings and trees, and it was pretty crazy. And then I moved to Florida, and then I really saw some hurricanes.
I've had a friend move to Florida recently.
Oh yeah, Florida's. I'm going back for about a week at the end of the month. Between the humidity and the hurricanes, it's an intense place.
Me and my wife always talk about moving one day. Eventually, we are going to move out of New Jersey, and Florida is, nice of a state it is. I don't think I could move to Florida for some of the reasons that we just mentioned. I know that's a stereotype, but
I mean.
Humid.
It's like scientific fact. There's a higher like I lived in South Florida. The humidity was high. Like I was a half hour north of Fort Lauderdale. It could be like 85 degrees, and you'd walk out and be like, feel like you're sweltering, like you're sweating from like front door to like getting in the car, full sweat.
It's like the barrier of heat that hits you. I know we've been in the 90s. Since the hurricane, and I stepped outside today, and it's just like a barrier of heat.
The last few days I've been dealing with completely different weather, being in Las Vegas now. It was like 115 the other day.
I saw that. Yeah, y'all
literally touched my car
in California. Some places.
As I get older, I used to like the heat, but as I've gotten older, I'm finding myself, I don't mind the cold as much. Now, I'm not saying the frigid cold like Minnesota or anything like that, certain parts, but, New Jersey cold, New York cold, Pennsylvania cold. That's bad.
Once you don't have to like deal with snow in like the shoveling it aspect, and it is like a relief. I remember shoveling snow. I remember dealing with that. I shoveled snow once in people's driveways, and I made $1.25 and bought an X Factor #1.
Well, there you go.
That was the spoils of my show snuffling career.
Did you buy an X Factor #6 later on? Continue with the series.
I was pretty good about like wanting every issue of like if I liked it. Yeah. But I don't.
How did you guys start in comics? I mean, I have my story, but what are your stories?
Well, I mean,
Todd, I'm looking for something that's bugging me.
Okay. I can give you like the summary, like now sparing you every little detail. But basically, like, as a little kid, I loved the the superhero cartoons, the old Captain America throws his mighty shield, and Super Friends, and Battle of the Planets. This is like when I'm like 4 or 5 years old, before I can really even read, before kindergarten. And then I think I started like school, and I really liked reading, and I read almost every book they gave me. And then I was home like after school one day, and I was like eating my cookies and milk or whatever, and watching my cartoons. And like this, back when Marvel did TV ads for comic books, there was some kind of ad for G.I. Joe. So, and I knew what G.I. Joe was. I had the toys. But I was in 3rd grade, and I was like, I saw like Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes fighting on a train. He like kicked. They were just fighting. And I was like 2 ninjas, and I'm like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And it like clicked. I was like, my mom goes to that flea market on the weekend sometimes, and there's that guy who has comic books. Because I had some comic books up to that point, but not like anything I saved.
Yeah.
Because it was bought at the candy store and just thrown away. But this guy had the bags and the boards and like the boxes. It was my first like exposure to like comic collecting in an organized fashion. So I got G.I. Joe number 29 the next time we went to that flea market. And then I think it really clicked for me. I was out like one weekend with my dad. He would take me and my cousins to see movies sometimes. We'd stop at a store before, like to get some candy or something or whatever. And they had I'd just go through the spinner rack. And I saw G.I. Joe 28. And I was like, wait a second, I got 29. If this is 28, now, mind you, I was an 8-year-old 3rd grader. If this is 28, that means there's 28, 1 through 28 more stories for me to read. And like that kind of hooked me. And I went and I like actively searched out all those back issues and continued like forward. And it just snowballed from there.
Yeah. That's a great story. That's a great story. Yeah. I mean, when you see something like that, it really does. Those sort of moments do change you, and obviously it leads us to where we're at today when it comes to this.
Such an incredibly formative moment for me. And it wasn't just that. It was kind of like everything coming because that's the stuff I just loved as a little kid. I mean, there was one booth at that flea market that sold karate gear. They had wooden swords. And I always wanted one of the wooden swords. Now, my mom was smart. She'd buy me the book to read. She wouldn't buy me the sword. She knew somebody would. Yeah. Smart choice. Yeah. But, no, and that was the thing, too. I think it was a reasonable ask for me to be like, Mom, can I have a buck? What do you want a buck for? I want to buy some comics to read. You're going to read them? Yes, I'm going to read them. If you want, I'll tell you about them after I read them. No, it's okay. Just here's $1. Nobody wants to, there's a few of us that want to actually hear about the comics we read and talk about it and stuff.
Yeah. That's great.
So, it's gone through peaks and valleys over the years. I'm 50 years old, so it's like 42 years of collecting to where, when I started on YouTube when I was still in Florida. And after I moved to Vegas, the pandemic happened, and I just had a lot of time on my hands. And I started doing YouTube auctions, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And now I have like 3 offices that I sell books out of. I do shows, and I've got my first my first signing is coming up the end of this month.
Oh, great!
I'm having a Joni Brasas. She's a cover model for Vampirella.
Oh, wow!
She's going to be here signing copies of her new. I think I got one right. I have it right here.
Yeah, I don't have the picture pulled up or anything yet. Hey, King's Beard, how you doing, my friend? Welcome. We got a special guest tonight.
So dark. I don't know why I don't have any light.
Yeah, the cosplay model for Vampirella. So I've got my order in for a signed copy.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean,
It's not really
it's a
working.
hell of a journey, though. You know, all that, like
No,
you
it's not.
peaks and valleys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's she's a good. She does a good job on these, modeling these characters. She also does Red Sonja, and I've seen her do
I love Red Sonja.
some Star Wars. Yeah, I'm hoping that I have. There should be 3 Vampirella covers I have for the signing and 1 Red Sonja cover.
Oh, I want a Red Sonja.
I got you. It's just a matter of if they get here in time, which, fingers crossed, we still have some time because it's the 26th. Oh, and I didn't see you, Shelby. I'm pretty excited.
Huh?
I'm flying to San Diego that Sunday, the day after the signing for Comic-Con.
Oh, wow.
You are not.
Somebody gave me a pass. Yeah.
You are not. Oh,
I am because
I took it off my bucket list a couple of years ago because it gotten too crowded and all that stuff, and I'm an old guy.
Yeah.
So be sure and just tell me all the bad stories about it, like long lines, too crowded, not enough comic books. So
Dude,
I only want to hear the bad stuff.
Growing up on the East Coast, Comic-Con was just something I was like, that would be awesome to go to, but it's just when you price it out before you get into the con, it's pretty pricey.
It's very pricey.
I was
I'm trying to save money, go Taylor Swift. So
hey, priorities, man, priorities. But no, my buddy was like, hey, I got this. I got my pass. I can't use it. If you can use it, if you have the means to get there, it's yours.
Wow.
And I was like, I looked online, I'm like, how much is a flight? I'm like, and I have a flight credit from the last flight. Bibbity boop, got my flight. It's 8 a.m. in, 8 p.m. out. So it's a full day of just nothing but Comic-Con. My one buddy who's been there a couple times because he has family out in San Diego, he's like, don't hit. He's like, you're not going to see. He told me probably stay out of the vendors section because all the vendors in California. You'll know a lot of them from the shows you've done. He's like, make sure you go to the big booths and see all the big things. And
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to talk to like Lunar and Penguin if they're there, Marvel or DC, and the different distributors, whatever.
Yeah, I've never been to San Diego. I mean, I've been to New York Comic-Con a few times. The last time I've gone was the year before the pandemic, and I haven't been back since. But
that is what I replaced my bucket list with was New York Comic-Con instead of San Diego.
Yeah, I would take the train up. The train's like about an hour ride from where I'm at in New Jersey to whatever the hell it's called. The station, what the famous station's called. Penn Station. Oh, drew a complete blank. Yeah. And just walk to the Javits Center.
Yeah.
But, the first one I remember, I went to 2014, 10 years ago. It was wonderful. It was wonderful because I pretty much got every book that was on my list. Then after that, it got harder to find some books and all that. But I haven't been back since the pandemic.
And I was fortunate when I was a kid that my dad wasn't a comic collector, but he was a comic reader when he was a kid. So he was very. He knew like golden age comics, like what a reader would know. You know what I mean? Like how he knew the writers and the artists and the issues and the characters. And he would take me to like comic conventions. Like I'd have to figure out like the where and the when.
Yeah.
But we went to some shows in Manhattan. I'm talking in like the early 80s. And I can remember he'd be like, look, there's World's Finest one. And there'd be like 3 copies of World's Finest one. And he's like, that's Batman one. And that's Superman. Like guys would just have these books like Spidey ones lined up, AF-15s lined up.
Yeah. And you would ask for it and he might say, do you have $500 to buy it? Which is what they were selling for back then, some of them.
I can remember anytime my family would travel, the first thing I would do if we were in a hotel or at somebody's house, I'd like ask. I was pushy like that. Where's the Yellow Pages? and I'd look up like to see if there's a comic store in the town.
Oh, wow.
And then immediately start campaigning to like, let's go to the comic store. You know, and at one time I got to one in Georgetown, in what, like by Washington D.C., and they had an ASM 50, an Amazing Spider-Man 50, on the wall, and it was $50. And like, it's not that my mom wouldn't let me make a giant pile of comics, like once a month, and spend $50, but she couldn't see. Like, I don't want anything else, Mom. I just want that one. Yeah. I'm not spending $50 on a comic.
Yep. Yeah.
So
that's the same kind of response I would get. Give me $50 on what? On a comic? One comic book? Give me a break.
Same comic cost me like $500 later on, but that's life.
If only they knew what some of these things would cost now to get.
Yeah. So, Anthony, it's Reaper Tate 728.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I am sub to you on my Shelby's. Well, I guess never mind. Just dropped your info so people can go follow you. Just sent you a follow over on IG also. But yeah, I do remember I was looking at your YouTube, and I remember I watched that tribute you gave to Tim. Which was really great. I didn't know him personally. I, tangentially knew some of the people in Lords of the Long Box, that group they have, but yeah.
Yeah, that was horrible. That came out of nowhere. That's a shame.
We've had a couple of people. We've had Comic Storian also.
I heard.
He just passed away, and it turns out it looks like he probably fell asleep at the wheel and rolled off the road. And but one thing I was going to bring up was actually the first thing, I'm going to share my screen real quick, was, there we go. One of the very first shows we first did, Ed Piscor was a semi-friend of mine. We knew each other, and we talked a couple of times on IG and stuff. But they just dropped this memorial that they had, memorial panel at Heroes Con with Jim Rugg, Ed Piscor's two sisters. They actually have a IG page called Ed Piscor Legacy that you can go subscribe to. They're doing a lot of great things there. So yeah, Ed Piscor was a cool ass dude, and really glad to have got to know him what little bit I did over the years. So
it's a shame.
Yeah. The only other news I had, and Todd, you might be able to speak to this a little bit, is Random House is acquiring Boom Studios.
I did read.
Boom Studios I've always liked because I think they've always put out some quality. I don't know why I got so many pro grads here. Really quality comics and stuff over the years. I know they had the licensing to Planet of the Apes, and I love the stuff they did for that. But isn't Random House a distributor or something, Todd?
Well, yeah. I mean, Random House is the main distributor for Marvel, but besides that, they're a huge book publisher.
Yeah, they are a huge book
publisher. They're like a huge international company.
Yeah,
they have a much wider reach and breadth than any of the comic distributors.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're talking about Penguin. Did they sign with Penguin Random House, right?
Here it is. I thought I had it pulled up. Sorry. Here it is. Just says Random House Publishing Company, division of the largest trade publisher, Penguin Random House. Yes, you're right.
But it seems to me like a no-brainer for Boom. It's going to get their material out to a much larger audience than.
Well, it's not just distribution; they actually bought Boom Studios.
Well, they're a publisher.
Random House hasn't really. I know they're a distributor and then they're a publisher of books, but I don't think Random House has had a publication presence in comic books.
Probably not, but they do have like one of the publishers you can choose from is Random House. Like as I have a Penguin account, one of the publishers I can choose from is like Random House Publishing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, you know, like I said, Boom Studios has been one of my favorite upcomers over the past 20 years, I guess. They've been around, always have put out quality stuff. They has usually been more in that young adult market, which, like you said, Random House has Scholastic, which is a lot of young adult trade paperback type of comics. I'm not sure if that's the right way to say it, but yes, I think it's a great combination for them. So for Random House, I mean, hopefully it's profitable for Boom Studios. So anyway, so that's the only two.
I don't want to give misinformation. I don't think Scholastic is actually part of Random House.
Oh, it's not? Okay. Because I know who was it? Was it that girl a couple of years ago? She's like the most published cartoonist in the world, right? And it was through her stuff she did with Scholastic.
Well, Scholastic does the book fairs in schools, in a lot of schools.
Yeah.
So that's a huge market. I mean, there's millions of schools in the country.
No, I used to, when I growing up. So we were talking about origin stories. You had the Scholastic form. They would send home with you, and my parents would, buy me some books and stuff off the form, in elementary school and everything. My parents was very big proponents of me reading. I guess at that time, right, reading meant, I don't know, meant more success.
I think they equated reading with positive like mental progress and development.
Exactly. So at a very young age, my parents were big proponents of me reading. And I remember I was sick home. I don't know if I was even in school yet, but I was really sick. And my dad came home early from work and brought me my first bag of comic books. And it was like, I still remember them. Spidey Super Stories. Hulk 180.
Oh.
Okay. And actually this isn't the original book, but I was a huge King Kong fan, and this comic, right? So it's like 4 or 5 books or something. And I remember cutting out the last page of the Hulk 180 and hanging the Wolverine on my wall.
I thought you were going to say you cut out the stamp that was in there, but no, you went for the full page.
No, I went for the full page. I went for the full half page of Wolverine. But that started to be on my comic journey, and my parents were always happy to give me, back then comic books were 20-25 cents. So you'd get that $2 allowance, you get 8 comic books, and
all I could do is like 3 for $2. I started in like the 60-cent range.
No, it's 25. And then I remember really quickly that went to still only 25 cents. They went to 30, 35. They did that really quickly in several years in the mid 70s.
When you start seeing that still only 25 cents, 30 cents is right around the corner.
Right around the corner.
Yeah.
Weren't some people lucky when you got that 35-cent variant? Wasn't there something like that in the 70s with Marvel?
There were in certain markets.
There's test markets.
Ohio was one of the markets.
Yeah.
Where they test the price out.
Well, that's actually a misnomer. It's not that they was testing the price out. They was going to that price. They knew that. but you had newsstand distribution back then. So what they wanted to see was if how much it may or may not affect their sales. So when they go to the printer, when they do go to 30 cents, they can adjust the numbers in terms of printing, with the printers. So that's what the test was to understand how it would change the amount they needed to print when they switched to that number. So yeah, they were always going to that higher value. So yes, 30-cent variants is something I collect. I have probably about half a short box of, and Todd has a couple of over there for me still.
Yeah, I do. They're in your box. Some other goodies.
Yeah. But no, I just always love comics. I drew a lot. I know Todd did too. You know, at that point, and you know, started trading and stuff with friends in the neighborhood, and you know, had another friend, Rusty, that was a big comic collector, and yeah, it was just, you know, just a wonderful part of my childhood and stuff, you know, being kind of that person on the outside. You know, I was a fat kid. And, you know, comics was always that escape for me. And yeah, I started doing a few shows and stuff when I was in high school, and, you know, setting up on the weekends at, have a little table at a bookstore on the weekends, you know, selling books and stuff. Got in with some baseball collectors, and we opened a store in 1987.
Oh, wow. Huh.
So I owned it till around 1993, and yeah, got out of collecting for a number of years, ended up losing everything in natural disaster, a flood in Louisiana. I'm originally from Louisiana. And yeah, early 2000s, I was going through my second divorce, and I asked myself, what was it that used to bring me joy? And the answer was comic books. And so I've been collecting pretty consistently for the past 20 years again. So, yeah.
It's quite a journey.
Yeah. And then in the past couple of years, you know, video games, because, you know, my dad was actually, again, you know, introduced me to comic books, but he's a big video game fan, man. I mean, like he wouldn't go out and buy the consoles for us. He'd go out and buy them for himself. Right. So, yeah, we had the Atari 2600, and man, he could beat us all on Pac-Man and everything. And, you know, then when Nintendo came out, you know, I come home from work one day and I'm walking through the house and he's sitting there playing freaking Mario. You know, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, why does I go get Nintendo? You know, he didn't get it for us. He got it for him.
Did you at least get to play?
Huh?
Would he let you play?
Oh yeah, we would, and that was one of the few things, you know. I mean, I didn't have the best childhood, you know. There was a whole alcoholism thing and stuff that went on. Only 2 divorces, and we don't go into the restraining orders, Tony. Come on,
Tony.
I did message Carla because she gave a shout out to you on your post, and so I messaged Carla, and she hasn't accepted my follow yet. So I'm very upset. So message Carla and say, follow my boy Shelby. Give him a message. Next time I see her. You're talking Carla Cohen. So, artist.
Shelby has a crush.
I get a crush on a lot of the female artists. I love female singers. I love female artists. But yeah, where was that? So yeah, videos, games, you know, so I missed like Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, GameCube, and all that. So when I don't know, probably about 15 years ago or something, right? About like an Xbox 360, a PlayStation. I think the PlayStation 3 was out at that time. And played a lot of games there. And now I've been getting more into retro stuff over the past couple of years.
Let me ask you, you mentioned you have a GameCube collection. Do you have a couple of favorite games for the Cube that you really like, that you like?
Oh,
they put out, GameCube is underrated, I think.
Very, very.
It came out against PlayStation 2 and Xbox, and it was just, a lot of people, unless you were a hardcore Nintendo fan, just looked at it like, pfft. And plus the PlayStation 2 is probably one of history's best-selling consoles. So it was up against a monolith. So I think it was a little underrated.
Yeah.
So people might have missed out on quite a few good games that came out for it that weren't multi-system. Do you have a favorite game? Definite, but do you have like a couple that really come to your mind when you think of GameCube?
The Zeldas, because I had never played a Zelda game. Zelda 1 and 2 was on the NES, but I never played them. I think I tried playing Zelda 1, but I didn't have the freaking guide, and you kind of needed the guide to figure out what the hell to do in that game.
Oh yeah,
I have a pretty hardcore Zelda story.
Huh?
The original Zelda on the Nintendo Entertainment System, the gold cartridge.
Yeah.
I played through that. It took me 8.5 hours one time in one sitting on one life without dying.
Oh God!
Wow.
I mean, I knew I knew where everything was. I'd beaten the game already, many times. But man, I remember it was getting to the end, and I was kind of getting excited because I was like, it felt like I had done something. I was a kid, but
it does. Yeah. It gives you a sense of accomplishment. That
it was
game.
like 8.5 hours. Didn't lose one life.
Wow. So a couple years. Yeah. So a couple of years ago, when I decided to introduce myself to Zelda, the first game I played was the Wind Waker.
The Wind Waker, yeah.
Which is GameCube, and I loved it, and I've played.
That's the one when he blows the flute and he teleports.
Huh?
Does he blow the flute in that one and teleport?
That's the one. I think he has the baton, right?
Yeah, he has the baton. Yeah.
The flute is Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
I mean, the flute is in several Zelda games. The flute is always something.
Yeah. That's probably in the first one too. There's a flute.
Oh, absolutely.
A little wind comes and takes you, and that's what I'm thinking of.
Well, and those are a couple of good ones too, because Resident Evil, the Capcom games like was it PN03 or whatever?
Yeah.
I love that. I love some of the art style. I'm like Killer 7. Yep. A lot of people really liked FX. What am I trying to say? GTFX or FX GT?
Yeah, that one I don't have. I was never good at racing games. I mean,
I wasn't either. But one that's really similar to it is called Tube Sliders. It's freaking awesome. It's a really fast, thing, except you go through tubes and stuff. It is really good.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so those are just a few that really kind of jump out at me. Normally I kind of play something, finish it, and then move on, sadly. And I don't revisit things too often.
Are you playing
Baldur's Gate 3 I did play 4 times.
But what was it? What game?
Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh yeah, I haven't played that. I heard it was kind of difficult.
No, not any more than any kind of fighting game like that. No, but it's really not a hardcore RPG either. So
yeah, I like RPGs. I don't like Souls-like games. I know that's like a big thing, like the Elden Rings, the Dark Souls. No, thank you. Those I try to pass. I see cool looking games, and and part of the description says it's a Souls-like. Next, but I would say my favorite type of game is aside from an RPG is like a Metroidvania.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, like true side scroller type thing, or just
like Symphony of the Night.
right? Yeah.
Those games where you have this map and you
Yeah.
explore,
Yeah.
go back.
Oh, well, then, yeah. Well, then you have those, right? You have Metroid, Prime, right? Am I saying that right?
Which one is it?
The Metroid 1 and 2 that's on GameCube.
Oh, yeah. There's Metroid. There's Super Metroid. Then there's the Prime games. Absolutely.
Yeah.
They recently came out. I have it back there. Metroid Dread a couple years ago.
Yeah. I haven't played that yet.
Metroid Dread was a title that Nintendo was toying around with years and years ago. And then when they found out that the fans found out they were actually making a Metroid Dread, it was really something. And it really is something similar to the Super Metroid and the Metroid Fusion that came out 15 some odd years before.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and yeah,
I
then
remember
again,
the original Metroid, but I never played
Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, except I did those on like the DS 3D. Because they were upscale to HD and stuff. So, and I do a lot of that stuff too. Like I love tinkering. So I will do like upscalers and stuff on my consoles and mod kits and things like that. So I have a modded GameCube Orange, right, with a Switch where I can go back and forth between US and Japanese games.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And I buy a few PAL. There's really good, like, we didn't get it, but Hot Wheels. And so you're driving in like a little Hot Wheel car and stuff, and you're driving through like the living room and everything. It's really fun. And such. So yeah, some of those little things I do like. But yeah, it's one of the few things, I've tried to kind of get, find a connection with the kids and stuff. My daughter could give a shit less than, for all this stuff. She's like, why don't you go ahead and sell it and give me the money now before you die? Like that's not the way it works. My son is into video games, so we kind of have that.
Yeah, my son likes games. He doesn't like the games I like, but he likes games that where you destroy stuff, like there's another game. Oh God, I forget some of the names, but he's not into some of the games I like, the genres at least. Not yet, at least.
No. I used to play some games on my Commodore 64.
Mm.
Really, oh yeah. Well, I mean, really, I love the text-based games, right? The adventure games got add-ons and stuff.
Isn't there like an Ultimate?
I played that Ultimate game, but it was really hard. Like it was almost, it was basically impossible, at least to my. And what I remember playing the games, I remember really like I played Ultimate a lot, and I think I had a Bruce Lee game that I played a lot. That was more like a side scroller where you just ran around and kicked stuff and bad guys, and there was like 2 or 3 screens.
The old school text-based games like go left, pick up lamp, white lamp, look around, things like that. So on the old VIC-20 and stuff. A lot of those are still around. There's a really good documentary called Get Lamp, which talks about the history of those text-based
What's
games.
It called?
Get Lamp.
Get Lamp. Get Lamp. That you put into those texts.
Yeah, you put into the text.
Oh, okay, I got you. Get Lamp. Okay.
I think another one was Wizardry. That was another big text type game, or at least it started out that way. But no, those games were just too much for me. Too hard. But I knew a lot of people that had the Commodore and had other PC type systems that would play those text games.
The games that I really love playing on the Commodore 64 is when they had the Dungeons and Dragons games, Pool of Radiance, Curse of the Azure Bonds. I don't know if you ever heard of either of those games. My buddy and I, hey, what's up, Flicks?
What up, Flicks?
Good to see you, Flicks and Comics.
So, right before the hurricane, I did get in one package. I haven't even opened it yet. I don't remember what even is in it. Let's see. Oh, and I'm jelly on you, Reaper. I was looking at one of your thing from 8 days ago. So I see. It looks like he's got that science fiction and fantasy book, Todd, that you got for me.
I mean, weird. This thing. Let me see. Let me see if I could grab it. I think I have it on my wall.
And shocking suspense stories. That one. That's the last issue, and that's a Frazetta cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, Todd just bought that from me. It's only a what, a 5.0?
Something like that, but
I didn't think that was going to get higher than a 5.5, but then again, I'm not a professional grader. So when I saw that it got 7.5, I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Oh, you sent that in, huh?
Yeah, I bought it raw, and I said, well, maybe this is a classic Frazetta cover. I should probably get it graded, and I just threw it in with whatever it was I was grading. And when it came back, I was like, oh shit.
You get a good deal on it? Like, did they know what it was?
Yeah, no, I work with my comic book guy. He's like a friend of mine too. And sometimes I'm going through some games that he just got, and I price them out for him, and I do all this stuff. And he said, hey, I got these ECs. I know you like ECs. And he says, you want this one? And he gave me a price, and I said, yeah, sure. And that's
I'm still trying to make Todd feel better about the price he paid for mine.
Okay.
Feel what? I gave you exactly what you asked for.
I know.
That was fair. Okay.
All right. So yeah, I just so in this box, I do remember this. This was an auction. I try to win several books. I'm trying to work on the full Peanuts collection of 4-color and Dale. It's just something I always loved as a kid was Peanuts. And then I ended up winning this book, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 11.
Yeah.
So something I can flip for a couple of bucks. So pay for some other things. But yeah, not in the best shape, but not bad. Not bad.
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, I've always felt that I like upgrading. And, I collect a lot of EC books. I just saw a lot of X-Men books, and I just sometimes work my way up.
Really? Okay.
The way you do it when it comes to upgrades.
I don't have the patience for it. I know a lot of people call me a grade snob. So if it's not in high grade and I buy it, then I usually don't get it. But I'm trying to be a little bit better. I've really gotten into doing comic book conservation and stuff, and so buying these lower grades really doesn't bother me as much anymore because I can clean them up and make them a little bit better and stuff. And this Peanut's such a hard set to try to complete.
Yeah,
I'll go for a little bit lower grade. So
yeah, I mean, whatever floats your boat. I mean.
Yeah, I actually just. Yeah, so.
What else you got there?
I'm trying to get. Well, this is all the
Peanuts run.
Some I've been trying. Yeah, looks like I've been trying to get the whole set. I know I got some more somewhere. This is number 1 for the gold key, but then there's the 4-color before. Then they're also in Tip Top Comics.
Okay.
So if you look at that is number 16. I love these photo covers.
I like that one.
That's cool. So, but
very nice.
Anyway, yeah, and I've been getting more to Golden Age and stuff. My room's a mess right now to try to grab anything.
No, you should see behind the camera, like not just what you see right here, but like over there. I promise myself one day I will organize this room.
I got some stuff.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to is I want to get this stuff mailed out. So, because behind me back there, there's like probably 15 or so boxes here. But then behind me is another 30 boxes. And I want to get some shelving and stuff because I have these shelvings here. They're pretty good and stuff. So anyway, unlike Todd, he got so big he had to go rent out freaking office space.
Gotta find what works. I got a bunch of books I'm bringing to the show this weekend. These are probably mostly my wall books. ASM 299 and 298.
Nice set.
Somebody put some stickers on the bottom, and I had to get that. They left some pink residue, but makes them more affordable for people. Got Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur #1.
That's great.
Got this Sergeant Fury 13.
First. I
got 2 copies of this, and I've been looking for this book for over 6 years since I moved from Florida, and in 2 weeks I got 2 copies.
When it rains, it pours.
Yeah, really.
Yep, I have my copy.
Miles Morales. This is the first Billy Morales Raza cover that people love. Invaders Annual, the last Schomburg cover.
Oh, jeez.
Pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Well,
the Spider-Man one. Some of these are just...
I don't understand why that's not a $300 book.
Some of them are just the Demo Goblins. Just some decent Spidey books, but these came in a collection this weekend.
Oh, wow.
These couple of books are like perfect timing.
Talk about an underrated book. That's the first appearance of Cable.
Yeah, I don't know why, he's just not, it's not worth more.
Yeah. I mean, I know in the early 90s, Cable was really popular and Deadpool really wasn't. But now it's like you could get, it's just not.
You can get 5 to 6 copies of 87 for every 98.
Yeah.
And I even got a couple of nice old Spideys. These are getting so hard to. People don't want to give them up. That's like the second lizard, I think.
Second lizard.
So I'm gonna have a pretty decent wall.
That's another one that's underrated.
Yeah.
Gambit was one of my favorite X-Men.
And some of these might be a little familiar.
Oh, where'd that come from? Oh, yeah. I've been downsizing a lot. Or at least trying to.
A lot of times it's like I have a lot of these books, but if I can pick up, you see what I do. It's like I don't ask for a ton. And I these are some that came in the collection. I got a copy of that.
That's
First Teen Titans.
I used to have that years ago.
The first Titans, DC Comics, and always nice to have a copy.
That's a set I've off and on wanted to collect. I just ended up buying the omnibus.
Another X-Men. Yeah. But I got some. This is stuff I haven't completely processed yet. I got a nice Hulk run.
Oh wow! Yeah.
20 centers, and you don't see 25 centers. You don't see the Hulks as much as you see in collections, as much as you see Spidey. And I've got a couple of oldies, some kind of beater copies, but First Abomination, I believe. Maybe not the first.
An early one. Oh.
Early one. Yeah. Some early Strange Tales. Classic stories.
Another series that's a little underrated. The Heroes Early Strange Tales.
It's awesome. Namor wrestling with the Thing. Co-featuring the mysterious Doctor Strange.
Mystery Dawn.
All right, so I'm trying to jump over to Todd's Chan. So what you're going to this weekend, is that the comics and coffee thing?
No. This weekend is Front Row Card Show. It's at the Rio Hotel.
Okay.
I didn't post.
So
I don't know if
you
I
don't
posted.
have. You don't have. Okay. Let me see if
I posted a preview of some of the books.
Yeah, I know, but you don't have the con information.
Yeah, but I can grab
Front
it.
Row Card Show.
Yeah, front row here.
I found it.
Okay. The Las Vegas one, obviously.
I got it. Whoops. All right. All right. So Todd's going to be getting out of the house, going to be on the road, as we say, this weekend. And he will be at the Front Row Card Show in beautiful Las Vegas, July 13th through the 14th. 450 tables, comic books and collectibles, cards and comics, grading by those people.
Maybe they do mostly card grading.
Yeah, I was about to say those are card graders, Beckett and stuff like that. But yeah. So this one's going to be at the Rio on Flamingo Road.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
That's pretty much it. It's Saturday and Sunday.
That's Saturday and Sunday. So from 11 to 5 and then 11 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
Swag bags, trade night. Oh, so trade night if you just want to come and bring your stuff and trade. Doesn't look like any kind of guest or anything, I guess.
No, I mean there's an artist alley.
Okay.
So there'll be some like small press artists, creators, stuff like that there.
All right. First 2 attendees will get a free swag bag. So be sure and get there early. Cool. And then while we're promoting it, let me get over here, Todd, to this one. Todd, like you mentioned a minute ago, is going to be doing his first signing at his store. So we have Joni Brazos, cosplay comic book signing. Gonna have a lot of things. Her Vampirella there, Dark Reflections #1, and that's gonna be July 27th from noon to 5.
It's gonna be a fun day. I'll do live streaming probably for a little while.
Oh, great!
If anybody wants to, so people have an opportunity to claim some books, some signed books. Try to get them out to as many people as possible.
Right. Looks like you've gotten a lot of comments and stuff over here, so it looks like a lot of people are excited.
Yeah, I think I definitely feel like there's some traction.
Yeah. Hopefully you printed out a few flyers to hand out at the comic show this weekend. Promote it
tomorrow morning.
Good.
I'm picking up flyers for both my signing and then also my convention that I put on with my buddy Barney from Simpsons Comics, what we call the Old School Comic Con. We do that at a local library. It's about 12 to 14 vendors. Small, but it's pure comics, nothing but comics. So
those are great shows.
Yeah, that's that's it, basically. I had a vision, and then like I went to my buddy, and I'm like, dude, how can we not have a dedicated comic show in Las Vegas? Come on, there's got to be a formula that works.
Yeah,
and maybe it's not this mega show that has 50 guests and huge expenses, and maybe we just scale it down and get to the bare basics, and and we've gotten a really good response. We've done it about 4 or 5 times already.
Oh, great,
cool. So I'm going to promote Reaper's YouTube because I was just looking at this. Got a lot of great stuff here. So please go and sub him up over there. I was looking at this. I'm going to have to go check out this room tour because
That was when the room
4
was
years ago, but is that a Detective 27? Is that a real one?
That's just a poster. That's not
Oh, okay. And this was the one I was talking about that he dropped a few days ago, 11 days ago, that shock suspense stories I'd be interested in. And looks like collecting a lot of X-Men. Got a little 4 months ago showing off an X-Men #1 there.
Yeah,
great. The first Polaris, a Daredevil #1, which has been on my want list for a while. House Secrets, first Swamp Thing there.
Yeah, so, all those were pretty much upgrades. Like I was saying earlier, I've been mainly upgrading books, and I bring in very few new books into my collection. New books in the sense that new books I've never owned before.
I mean, that's a great, that sounds like such great focus.
Yeah.
I love it, because I'm almost the polar opposite. If it's the right price, I'll buy just about anything.
Yeah.
If it's 60 long boxes of bulk and it's the right price, okay. I know how I can, work it to be profitable.
Yeah. 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 It's about 10 years ago when I first got back into the hobby, I was buying up everything. All the first appearances that I always wanted, all this, all that. And like the last few years, I started focusing on, like I said, just upgrading, just getting rid of the stuff that, I really don't want this anymore. And if I wanted it again, I would get it again down the line.
Sure.
But I've been focusing now that I've gotten into some Atlas pre-codes, that's been a foxhole in itself.
Yeah, it is. Well, and that's something interesting. Bring it up, and then we'll segue into. You haven't told us your origin story yet on collecting, but that is something that I know that a lot of us have now been friends for several years. Maybe we met during the pandemic. I know Todd and I have been friends for about 4 years now, and Jason, Southern Comic Geek, we've been friends for about 4 years. Tony and Y. And we've all watched our collecting evolve over those 4 years, right? Like, I'm getting more into Golden Age. Not even the only thing particular in the Golden Age is Captain Marvel, because I've always loved that character, and so I pick up just about anything. But then getting in more to this conservation stuff, and I do love some of the pre-code Atlas books. I know I have a few sitting right around here somewhere, but I know I've moved that stuff around for the sale, the auction that Todd and I did the past couple of Fridays. But yeah, it's a great little niche, right? So it's like, okay, I want to get rid of all this modern stuff, and probably go ahead and get rid of all the 80s and bronze and things like that. I've had fun. I've had fun collecting it. I've had fun owning it for years. But, a lot of my tastes have changed, and, to kind of curate down to something specific is, has been enjoyable to me. So segue to you there, Mr. Anthony.
Well, I guess my origin was I've always been an oddball growing up, and I've always been attracted to like horror. So I started watching Tales from the Crypt on HBO the day it came out in like '89, and this was around the time the Batman movie came out. And I heard of Batman before. I remember watching the Superman movies, so I knew that they came from comics. Those were the comic characters that I was familiar with. I never heard of the Fantastic Four. Never heard of Captain America. I never heard of the X-Men and all that stuff. But I saw this TV show that really spoke to me, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is really cool." And then it's almost like I found out these were based off of comic books. So about a year later, when the show started its second season, it had more than 6 episodes, and had all these famous Hollywood stars guest starring. that's when I really started to take an interest in comics. So I went to, where I lived at the time. There was this mall called Woodbridge Center. And I went to this place called Heroes World where they sold comic books. I just went in there and I said, "Do you have any Tales from the Crypt comics?" And he said, "We do." And it wasn't the originals. It was the recently published Gladstone.
Yeah, the Gladstone reprints.
Yeah. I purchased number 3 and hoping that I would see one of the episodes. And I didn't, but I wound up reading it and I found out, wow, I hope they make an episode about this one and that one. And I just couldn't wait to go back the next month, and I found out about the Vault of Horror and the Haunt of Fear, and that's really where my kind of collecting started. But it kind of fizzed away for a couple years until the Marvel Masterpiece cards came out with Joe Jusko, and I thought these things looked like a work of art. And I looked on the back of the card, and it had the comic book on where these characters made their first appearance. The X-Men cartoon show started around that time, so I started watching it, and that's how I started collecting X-Men. And the very first X-Men comic book I bought was X-Men 141, because the cartoon show Days of Future Past just started. And I said, I want to read the comic of that. And it's been Maximum Carnage came out that summer, the event for Spider-Man. I wait to get those, and that was it. I went from X-Men to Spider-Man and started collecting. Then when I came back to the hobby in 2013, 2014, I wanted to get all those books, upgrade some of the X-Men books, Spider-Man books I had when I was younger. When I started with Incredible Hulk 181 and all that. And now I'm here. And a couple of years ago, as I completed my EC horror run. And
you did not, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't have the science ones.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get into the science ones, but I have all the Tales, the Vault.
Really?
Oh yeah, most of the Shock, a couple of the crime. I mean, I got the crime book that matters. Let's just say in that run. And I said, but I was following people on Instagram, and Tim. We talked about the video I did for Tim. He's the one that introduced me to Instagram. And he was telling me, hey, you should come on Instagram. He said IG. I said, what's IG? He said Instagram. And because you find a lot of other people where have your interest.
Sure.
And that's when I found out about Atlas Horror. And I was like, I don't know if I really want to go down that route, because I don't know if I'll ever come back. And then I did. And I haven't come back. This is
you need it.
One of my favorites.
Oh my God. Yeah.
This is and I got this from Code Blue on Instagram. He's a great guy. And even does his little advertisement on the back. Great guy. And I got this from him. And this has become one of my favorite pre-code horror covers that rivals some of my favorite EC books. I never thought that would happen, but it did. And this one right here, talking about my origins, where I first started collect those reprints, like I said, the Tales from the Crypt. And I saw a reprint of this as an advertisement. And that's when I got introduced to this particular cover. I was like, oh my God, look at that. And it's been a personal grail of mine. And for anybody that knows about the TV series, this one right here, second season, Tales from the Crypt, first episode with Demi Moore. It's called Dead Right. Where she wants to meet somebody rich. It's in this book right here. I think it's the first story. It's not the cover story, but it's the first story. So, and that's pretty much it. That's where I'm at today.
All right. Well, I'm now following Code Blue Comics, and so what does he? Does he do like sales or auctions or something?
He does sales, and he loves that Mystery 19. That's one of his favorite books, and I started talking with him about it last summer, and I've had a couple copies of that. I had a 3.0, a 3.5, and then I upgraded to the 5.0, and I'll probably one day upgrade again of that. But yeah, he's really helped my interest in that book and several others.
I see some friends of mine are sub to them because a lot of people are trying to buy all of the Seduction of the Innocent.
That's that's the advertisement that he has on the back here.
Yeah.
He wants to collect all those that's in this picture. He accomplished it.
Yeah, I see that picture.
That was his personal goal.
Yeah, I saw that there was a comment from Phil from Phantom Restorations. He's been a guest on this channel. He's a good friend of mine.
Oh, cool.
So, and there's also Captain Larry Flying L, and he loves the pre-code EC stuff, and he's working on a collection. Yeah. I'm not that. Like I said, my niche, I guess, is more the Captain Marvel. So Captain Marvel, Wiz Comics, Marvel Family, Captain Marvel Jr., things like that, Wild Comics and stuff. And I love horror. I love it. I pick up a few things, when I find it at affordable prices, but it's not a niche that I'm going to say niche versus rabbit hole that I want to go down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you got to be more singularly focused, I think, when you're dealing with Golden Age versus, things are just so proliferated with, modern and copper and things like that,
Yeah, that's how I started. With the Tales from the Crypts, I said to myself, since I love the show so much, I want to get every crypt book or vault book or whatever that had an episode done on HBO.
Yeah.
So, which is pretty expansive. But then after that, I said, you know what? The hell with it. Why don't I get them all?
And I don't know how many is even in that run or anything. I haven't investigated that. But like here is, so we're talking about, let me move some stuff around here. And I know other people, so this is a
Mystical
code. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it's a cool book.
Atlas has so many titles you never even. Oh, nice. Web of Mystery. That's a great one. Look at that.
Yeah.
I like it. What else you got? Oh, Hand of Fate. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a Hand of Fate book.
Yeah. Well, when I see these, I just pick them up because they're, cool and all that. But, like I'm working on, let me try to get rearranged here a little bit. Like I'm working on conserving this book right now.
Oh God. That's really nice.
Yeah, it's a cool cover.
Fixing it up, conserving it, yeah.
Well, yeah, you see that it's completely, it came in pieces, and so I've done some restoration on cleaning up the pieces and getting them ready for leaf casting and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm going to end up getting the book put completely back together. You can see how I've cleaned it. Like, look at that gloss.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean that's really cool that you're able to do that. I haven't gotten to that point yet.
And I want to say, I know I used to say it was kind of a natural evolution because like I mentioned earlier, right? Is I love to tinker. I grew up as a carpenter. And I ended up going to school and getting a PhD and all that shit. But I several years ago I got into cleaning and pressing, and I did that for about 4 years, and then met some people that did conservation, right, which is using archival methods to actually bring life back to these books. And I think you'll understand this is preserving them for another 50 or 100 years, right? Because these things are falling apart, they're deteriorating, they're not that plentiful to begin with, right?
And they weren't last.
Yeah, and to be able to save that for that next generation, it's like, yeah, man, because that that's what we're talking about. That's what we've been talking about, is that love of comics and passing on that love in some way. You know what I mean? It's not a monetary thing. Well, hey, if we can build, like a friend of mine says, we can build equity. That's great.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. But, you know, first and foremost is that love. And, you know, and I think Todd.
Well, that's how this hobby survives.
It is. It is. And I think that, you know, Todd does that in his certain way with, like, buying these and selling these and moving them on and things like that, right? Kind of being the middle person. And then that's where his love of bringing it to other people. And I love your story about getting into collecting through the media, right? Seeing Tales from the Crypt on HBO, and it made me start thinking, it's like, man, I hope at least 3% of the 3% of the people that go see the Marvel movies maybe also get into the hobby that way, right? Like, oh wow, this is cool. That, you know, this is the Days of Future Past.
Imagine that, though, right?
You know,
the Tales from the Crypt audience, it was a popular show, is nothing compared to the audience that you have now with the MCU. So if some people get into it because of the movies, the way I got into it through Tales from the Crypt, you're going to have a whole new group of people preserving the hobby, wanting to get in the hobby. So I think
that's what we hope for, right? That's what we hope for. You know, we don't want it to die out.
I think there's a certain potential in any mass media product to evoke that feeling in somebody. You know, there's only so many people that are gonna react and become like the hardcore collector, really dedicated. You know, but it's cool that there's so many people even that are kind of tertiarily into the stuff. Because I see a lot of people wearing T-shirts and having other little products with like logos and characters on them, and they may not read comics, but they're helping to make sure there's more product made, you know, and there's more, which makes it readily possible for us to still save the old stuff and kind of keep it going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when it comes to some of the appreciation, like I was saying, when it came to X-Men, and I saw them on screen, I was like, oh, I wonder what they looked like in the comic book, you know? And that's when I started collecting some of the older ones, Days of Future Past and everything. I was like, oh, okay. And I remember saying, oh, I want to get some of the really old ones, because I saw, this character, the Blob, he showed up in X-Men 3. So I'd get X-Men 3, a real low-grade copy at the time. And I remember looking at it, and I was like, oh my God, this was the artwork back then? I didn't realize it took me time to appreciate it.
No, 100%. 100%. Because I was introduced to those with, in the 80s, they did a reprint book called Amazing Adventures.
Yeah. Yes.
Just reprinted the X-Men, and that's how I got into the old X-Men. Because I bought, you know, again, if you look at the first comics my dad bought me was in 1974, right? So I bought, you know, a lot of those things off the newsstands, right? I remember buying the John Byrne X-Men off the newsstands. And it was so popular amongst a group of us. Whoever had the money would go buy the new copy of the X-Men, bring it to school, give it to the next person for them to read it. Then during the 10 o'clock break, they would pass it to the next person. Then at lunch break, they would pass it to the next person. And then, you know, sometimes it'd make it back to you. Sometimes it wouldn't. But, you know, you had at least 4 or 5 people that book passed through that, you know, only one of us could afford to buy it and, you know, would enjoy it and stuff, you know. And John Byrne X-Men was like, you know, the thing for us back then. And I say high school, we were actually middle school, you know, when we were doing that and stuff. So, you know, there's a girl named Becca, a friend of mine, Steve Rogers, Paul, you know, and Scott, you know, and we would all pass that book those books back and forth, to each other. And
once again, you had that little group, I mean, it only keeps the hobby going. It's fortunate you had that. When I was growing up, it was only me. And like I know you guys, which I thought was really cool that your parents were very supportive of it. I remember Todd saying, well, his mother would give him a certain amount and make sure that it was for educational purposes, and your father got you into it and video games and all that stuff. I think those are really, really cool stories that you have such great memories attached to it. Unfortunately, my father hated comics. He hated video games. He hated Star Wars, and he disliked people that liked those things.
Oh,
Very, he was a very, kind of tough kind of guy. You go out and you play ball, and maybe you get into a few fights, where I was completely not like that at all. I would not get into a fight because I'd lose. But so that's why I said I kind of gravitated toward the horror, which he hated horror very much so. And, that's where, then the rest of the story from there. So,
yeah. And you're right, Tony. I wonder about that too with the price of comics nowadays. Like, I don't know what a kid's allowance is. I think before I was forced to go out and make my own money, I think the biggest allowance I ever got was $5.
Yeah.
You could buy about 10 comic books at that time.
But hey guys, listen. Let me just say thank you so much, Reaper Tate, for coming on and hanging out. I have to go, Shelby. I got some people that just showed up. I have to do some work with. I'm sorry.
Well, thank you for having me.
No, that's it. Yeah. We've been going for about an hour and a half, so we'll actually go ahead and close it here if that's okay. Hey, Tate, Anthony, you're welcome back anytime, buddy.
Oh, thank you. For sure.
Continue and stuff, because definitely, like, some of our love with the Golden Age and everything, I think would be great for us to dig into that a little more. And like I said, I followed you over on IG, so follow me back, and we can trade information and stuff and all that. So y'all go visit Todd this weekend at I've already forgotten the name of the thing, and I closed it already. The show there in Las Vegas. Tony. We will be back next Thursday. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you all. Thank you again, Anthony. So great to meet you, my friend.
Thank you guys for having me. I had a great time. Thank you very much.
And it looks like we're gonna have a whole lot more to talk about and stuff with their video games, and maybe we'll even get Todd and maybe we'll send them an NES DS or something.
I had a DS. I had a little.
I got the Zelda one here. The Zelda.
I had a little card from Japan that let me play all the different games.
I want to give me an Ambernique, to start doing some emulations and stuff. All right, but anyway, looks like Todd's got some customers back there. Hey, thank you, everybody. We'll see y'all next week, and remember, peace, love, and comics. Good night, all.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, Mr. Kaz.